Hey everybody, welcome back to the Clean Strength Fitness Podcast. We've been on a bit of a hiatus or a break, whatever you may call it. But we're back, and we are back with Malhar Patil, Adam Jansen, myself, as well as our newest Clean Strength Fitness coach, Danny Fiesta. Danny, you want to take this time to introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. My name is Danny Fiesta. I've been coached by Adam for 2 years now. I've been powerlifting for more than 5 years now. And I'm dipping my toes and getting into more powerlifting coaching as of this time. And I started coaching more lifestyle clients, personal training one-on-one at a local gym. And Adam hit me up, and now here I am.
Oh yeah. No, it's great to have you. It's been a good time. I mean, it's been nice seeing you grow both as a lifter and as a coach since we started. So really happy to have you on the team and see where things can go from here.
Yep.
Yeah, so Danny was joining us as a official coach. So if after this podcast or anytime you are interested in her services, just throw in a ticket and we can get you started. That being said, today we are going to talk about a topic near and dear to me. It's not actually that near and dear, but it was my idea, as they all are. And that is trying to be a bit more process-oriented with training. And this sort of came about because, let me run the audience a little bit through how we do things. Adam and Mally, with none of their ideas, they asked me, Nick, what's the podcast topic? And frankly, post-Nats, I have been trying to think about powerlifting as little as possible. I think that Nats for me was a little bit sobering and sort of just seeing where I was and now where I am and where, the numbers competitively tend to be nowadays and how far I am from them at this point. I felt, maybe a bit disheartened to some degree. And I think that going into Nats, it was good to be, extremely passionate, very hungry for it all. But then when I didn't punch my ticket to Worlds and I had what looked like a year off season looming in front of me yet again, and also realizing that not only did I have a lot of work left to get back to where I was, but an even further journey to get to where I want to be, it just didn't seem worth it to be or frankly as motivating to really be that hungry. It kind of felt a bit silly because it just felt like a very long road ahead of me. So instead of looking at things in terms of objectives and where I want to be, which is how I have been looking at the sport for a very, very long time, I just tried to disconnect myself as much as possible, right? So again, when Adam and Mally asked me, what's the topic for, the next episode, I kind of just had to tell them, guys, I'm not thinking about powerlifting. And I'm doing that strategically to try to separate myself from it to some degree. And I further told them that I'm trying to focus more so on the process of, as opposed to the greater scope of, right? That's sort of how I get into the idea of being process oriented. Is one of the big things I do is I stop thinking about powerlifting so much, right? And maybe that's where I want to sort of take this jumping off point is I think people tend to get too objective oriented with the sport and they spend so much time just thinking about powerlifting. And look, we're coaches, so maybe to some degree I am shooting myself in the foot. And I do want to make it clear that I still think about all of my athletes as much as my brain allows, right? There is a lot of office hours. I still do their check-ins. It's not like I am not thinking about powerlifting at all. But when it comes to my own training, because I am self-coached, I still have to think about it a bit. But I have partitioned that off to, at the end of every block, I will look back on my block. I will plan out the next one. I maybe think about my training for all of an hour, and then I'm done. And I don't think about it anymore until that, 3 weeks is up and I think about it for another hour. And I think about training within the gym for the 2 to 3 hours I'm there. But then as soon as I'm out, I log out mentally, right? And I think that this is a skill that a lot of other athletes to some degree need to adopt. I know I have a lot of my athletes that are constantly drilling at me about, I want to accomplish this. I want to lift this number. I want to lift this on their rest days, right? And it's like, to some degree, you need to let your nervous system just settle down, chill out. I feel like if you're on your rest days just stressing about the numbers, that's when I start to say, are we being too objective oriented with the sport as opposed to focusing on the process, which would mean, look, we just chill out, right? On a rest day, what is the process of a rest day? It is resting, right? What is the process of training? It is training. So I think another thing I try to tell a lot of my athletes is get horse blinders on, right? Think about the immediate future. Don't think about the long term. Just think about, what are you doing today and tomorrow? Then stop thinking, think 48 hours ahead and give up after that. I've rambled on a lot here, right? Because again, this is a bit of a loose topic, and I also try not to think about powerlifting too much. So now I'm thinking about it within the context of this podcast and just filling my brain with so much shit at once, which is why I don't like to do this anymore because I get stressed out and I want to just relax and chill out. And it's been fantastic for my training, frankly. I feel almost as strong as I've ever been. I'm not posting, so no one really knows that, but I'm hitting PRs again. So any of you guys want to pick up after this a little bit?
I'll challenge it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this has to do with the season of life and where you're at in your training. Are things going well? Are things going poorly? Are you feeling a little burnt out? I think putting the blinders on can absolutely be a good tool if we've lost some momentum, we're a little bit discouraged with how things are going. But I will challenge you, and I think, Nick, you could probably admit this, early on in your career, some of the most productive training was probably from when you were chasing numbers, really big goals, ambitiously. Because I know that was the case for me, right? When I was younger and going through my younger years, I was thinking about objective outcomes all the time. I was thinking about big numbers. But in those seasons of my lifting career, I was also not burnt out. I was very motivated. Things were going well. And it snowballed and things ended up becoming very, very productive. But like you, I've gone through stages.
I mean, yeah, I was actually
when
thinking,
I got.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Just so you guys know,
also.
I'm on Starlink right now, so when it's switching satellites, I cut out for a brief second. But yeah, I've also gone through periods of my training and of life, especially when I got sick, where if I thought the same way, I would have driven myself insane, right? Like I really did need to take things day to day, but I don't think it can be an absolute. I don't think it can be a blanket statement that this is the most effective way to operate, is putting on the blinders and thinking about one day at a time. I think you need to be honest about your current reality and take full advantage of that. Listen, if I have an athlete carrying a ton of momentum, feeling very ambitious, chase the numbers. I do not care. But if you're going through a rough season, then absolutely slim down the profile that we're looking at.
Man, you know what used to motivate the hell out of me every single session, every week, actually? This is going to sound really dumb, but like, I feel like some people will relate to this and understand it. It was making the weekly Instagram post. It was like, I want training to go crazy this week, so that way when I post it, people are like, whoa, he's on one. The dopamine rush of having good training and being able to post it, when you're on, right? But I feel like even then, there's still like a bit of a process there. It's like, I want to maintain my social media process. And then, yeah, once you fall off of that, it kind of sucks. And I do think that either consciously or subconsciously, a lot of the top lifters are probably doing that. Like, when Joe Bornstein is on like a training momentum tear, you're getting the posts once or twice a week with the Attack on Titan music, and it's a big event, and that gets shared on King of the Lifts, and it's like, oh shit, Joe's going crazy. But then when he starts to fall off and he tries to make those posts again, I feel like, yeah, it becomes counterproductive, where it's like, I don't know. I feel like when training isn't going well and then you still try to chase that previous process, like Adam said, there's stages and ages in lifting, then it almost backfires, right? I hate posting about my training when it isn't that good. And then you have like the one or two comments where it's like, are you cooked? Are you washed? I can't handle it. I'm a bitch. I can't do it. Right. So I just don't do it anymore. I stop posting. And it's a weird way for me to navigate it and stay process oriented as opposed to just like the objective of, in that case, making a post, gaining followers, right? Instead, look, I'm just trying to frame and make my mindset work for me ultimately, right? Danny, Mally, any thoughts, opinions?
Danny, go ahead.
I feel like I'm kind of coming out of the phase of being process oriented, kind of just putting your head down and then transitioning into the mode of chasing that number, just because my training feels like it's really picking up lately. And up to this point, I've really only ever focused on the current block that I'm doing the next week that I'm about to hit, the next training session. I never really thought that far ahead of like months out. That's just the way that I operate. So.
Yeah, that reminds me a lot of, I know Rondell Hunt, the style that he programs. Anyone watches vlogs? Do you remember what he calls it? It's like agua, some shit. Yes, no, any bells ringing? Anyways, it sort of is this idea of like you always, you plan your blocks top down sort of, so that way every block has like this strict goal, and then you get hyped within the block to hit that goal, but you never think beyond that block, right? And I do think that this is a trap that, again, I think a lot of lifters fall for it. It's why I thought about this in the first place is if you start thinking my objective is in a year, I want to do this, it's too far ahead. It's a bit daunting. It's a bit weird, right? It's not immediate. It's just a bad goal to set. And I think that you lose sight of how to get there when you're just, you're just staring at the peak and not the mountain underneath it, right? And I think, what Danny's saying is just maintain focus on the steps to get there, one step at a time, right? Like you write out the block, you see the block, whatever, and you just focus immediately on that block and how to fulfill that. Do you look at the numbers within the block, or do you set a goal for the block, or do you just sort of take it Adam, how does the programming work on Danny's side, or Danny?
Well, recently we've started setting more block goals. So by the end of the block, I'm already setting the jumps week to week, bridging myself to get to that goal. Yeah.
Yeah. I always find it productive. And this is when people start picking up momentum again in training, is I like to work backwards from the end of the block. I know that can be not the best way to operate when someone doesn't have a bunch of training momentum, but setting a nice realistic goal for the end of the block, nothing overly ambitious. If we feel good, we can always surpass it. But then using the data we have, what has been conducive to productive training throughout the course of a block, and figuring out the jumps we need to take backwards in order to get there. But in the case where someone doesn't have a ton of momentum, I think we follow the very loose strategy that Nick is probably following right now. We show up to the gym, we take what's there on the day, we put on our blinders, and then just move on. So yeah, it really does depend on how much momentum do I feel like the lifter has right now, what's going to be productive to getting them feeling better, because that's always the goal. If they're feeling good, how do we feel better? If they're feeling bad, how can I get them to just be feeling good? And there's different strategies to operate there. But yeah, with Danny, we typically, like if she has quite a bit of momentum, then we'll work backwards from something that we want to hit at the end of the block. And when you get good at it, like Danny's gotten good at it, she can do this on autopilot. She doesn't need a ton of input from me. Right now, she's setting those goals for herself and figuring out those jumps in order to move forward.
How long are you guys' blocks? 3 weeks, 4 weeks?
4 weeks typically.
Yeah. How does that look from week 1 through week 4? Like if there is this big sort of culmination of, how do you stay focused for, the 28 days leading up?
Well, Danny's in an interesting spot where we found out that her lifts respond a little bit differently from each other. So we're running a 3-week cycle on deadlift, a 4-week cycle for bench, where on that 4th week is in essence a little bit of a deload for the squat and deadlift while bench continues to thrive. So we know what to expect in terms of tolerance and what the body can do and how hard we need to push the body on each week. But Danny, if you want to answer your part on kind of how you think about those weeks, that'd be awesome.
The switch from 4 to 3 jumps on squat and deadlift, it just made me a little bit more aggressive in terms of jumps and kind of pushes me to be more uncomfortable, but also build confidence from those big jumps. Because the bridge from 1 to 3, it's really easy. It's just one in between those things. I also don't get so beat up anymore. I think this is like the 3rd or 4th block that we're doing this type of offset pacing on the lifts. And I didn't feel as beat up as before. So yeah, I think the 3 weeks for squat and dead and then the 4 on bench is working great for me.
I've actually done this with about 4 of my lifters now. This whole, what do I call it? Staggered blocking. And it's freaking amazing. It works really good for lifters who are having tough time recovering from like heavy deadlifts or having all 3 heavy at the end of a block at the same time. And people go, oh, but then what about peaking? But then you actually figure out that some lifters might need a 2-week taper for deadlifts. And that works out perfectly if you time it well. So this staggered blocking system is, I think, I've been testing it for a few years with some athletes, and I think it's phenomenal.
How do you guys go about maintaining momentum block to block, right? Because we know that training is not just 4 weeks long or whatever. It is the culmination of block after block after block after block. And when, some lifters find that they put massive or, cumulative goals at the end of a block, there's sort of that massive adrenal and motivational dumping once that's been achieved. How do you then cycle that back into the next block, into keeping the gas on, so to speak, so it isn't these giant peaks and valleys? Or do you just accept the peak and valley? Is that the process in and of itself?
Yeah, I think having a strategy of when the mind should be firing and ambitious, and then when we need to turn it off. And I think going into that 4th week, especially for Danny on squat and deadlift, it gives her a great opportunity to relax a little bit, right? Like, let's not worry about the goals. Let's just take what the body can do for that 1 week. So we have a 1 week period every 4th week to kind of just reset the mind, reset the pressure we're putting on ourselves, and just relax, deload from a mental and physical aspect to some sense. And that's how I operate with my own training as well. Like, I have 1 week of each block where it's just kind of a full reset for my mind and body.
Yeah, I try to teach it too, but I'll treat that week 1, because I don't remember the last time I've taken a deload, but that week 1 is like, I'm using it to relax, reset with having a goal at the end of the block. But that week 1 is usually, it's always something I know I can do in my sleep, but it's also striking distance from what my week 3 is going to look like. Week 3 is my end of the block. So I am always doing the backwards calculation, like we just talked about a few minutes ago. But my week 1 is, how do I get to that by not killing myself on week 1? I need to be able to do this with my eyes closed. So that's how I pick my week 1 numbers. So it just becomes like a mental deload, physical deload. Everything is just relaxing. But I know by the time week 2 comes around, I'm getting ready mentally and physically for what week 3 has for me.
Yeah. I had a thought. I lost it.
How are you thinking about your own training, Nick, in terms of numbers? At all?
I just don't at this point.
Yeah. But how long do you think it's going to stay like that? Like, do you think you'll be able to fight against, right? When things are going good, like really good, consistently, do you think you're going to switch back to being a little bit more ambitious, setting numbers for the end of the block? Or are you going to continue to operate like this now that you're kind of old man unk?
So at the moment, I'm sort of, like you said, structure my training where, look, I look at how whatever day I'm on lined up last week, and if I can push it a little bit, I just push it. And I do that in 3-week waves, right? And I'm mainly just sticking within a range of like RPE 8 to 9, frankly, because it seems to be working out for me. Just keeping things pretty hard and pretty intense. But I think the big thing that I'm trying to get at isn't so much actually how I'm structuring my training, but how I'm situating my mind around it, which is just, look, as long as it's hard, I don't really care what the numbers are, right? Because if I objectively look at like my squat and deadlift numbers, they're way down. Bench is good. But I'm just trying not to think about the numbers as much, if at all. And that's sort of mainly what I'm talking about when it comes to this sort of like horse blinders, is instead of thinking, okay, because I could easily fall down this pitfall of, okay, if nationals is in this amount of months and I need to hit this number at nationals if I want to be competitive, and then I pull it all the way back and then I'm like, okay, blah, 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 blah. Eventually I'll get to the point where I'm like, all right, in 2 months, I need to deadlift 800 pounds again, right? And then I work backwards from that, and then suddenly I need to pull X amount of weight next week or it's all over, right? Versus just, if I'm working from the bottom up, actually, in my regard, right? Not doing what Adam and Danny plan out for themselves and just sort of go, what could I probably hit next week given this week, right? Then I just structure it from there. And like Adam said, it's trying to accumulate momentum. Maybe at some point then we can start going, okay, we had a productive block, like an actual block. How can next block look from there and start working from top down? But for now, it really is just, I don't have that momentum in me. And I think that's fine, right? You play with what you got. And I do think that maybe what I'm getting at here is that I think a lot of lifters will try to force that top-down approach because there is something secure and sexy about it. And also, it sounds nice to be like, at the end of this block, I'm going to do this. And it's like, yeah, that's great. Like, but, and Adam's talked about this before, where it's like, you almost talk about your goals to the point that you've done them in a sense, right? Like you talk as if they've already been accomplished. And I think that does something in your brain where you have accomplished it. And for some people, that means that they aren't as hungry to work towards it anymore. For myself, it stresses me out because I'm like, I got to live up to this now, right? If I tell even myself that at the end of this block, I need to hit this number, I start stressing out that like, I need to do everything in my power to hit this number. And I just don't have it in me in regards to life and in regards to training to set things up like that, right? I very much need to do this bottom down approach of just like, what am I going to hit this week? And that's it. That's as much as I'm thinking. If I'm even thinking, what am I going to hit? Mainly, I'm thinking about, back to the start of this podcast, the process of being very, very in tune with what I'm doing at the gym, like, or even what I'm doing outside of the gym. Horse blinders in regards to like my daily schedule. So for me, sometimes instead of even going to the gym and being like, I'm going to bench this number or squat this number, I'm like, I kind of want to just get done in like an hour and a half and then spend 10 to 20 minutes doing some like cardio after, because that's been enjoyable to me and it keeps me grounded as opposed to thinking about numbers at all. And I think that could be like a viable strategy. I think also a big part of this is like, I think this goes to show one of the great benefits of having a coach that can think about all this shit for you. So that way you can offload that and keep your nervous system more pulled down. And I think that if people do have a coach and then they overthink their training anyways, they do themselves a disservice, wherein they spend so much time and energy especially, thinking when they don't have to. Because I do think that thinking can be stressful. It doesn't let you rest as much as you can, right?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, like with one of your points as well. Is I don't think a top-down strategy is effective for hyperneurotic lifters at all. I think as a coach, if I know a lifter is super neurotic, I share very, very little about what my plans are for them over the course of the block. And I'm just telling them, like, I just need you to execute this session. They'll message me after, what's happening next week? Don't worry about it. I'll tell you when the week is done, you know? So I think not only does this have to do with, burnout or motivated stages of your lifting, but it also could be dependent on the mindset of the lifter. Even if a lifter has a ton of training momentum, but they are hyperneurotic, I don't think a top-down strategy is a good thing. So there's many reasons for different strategies being applied to lifters, but it is a necessity to figure out between coach and athlete, or if you're self-coached, you got to do some serious thinking about what's actually productive for you as a lifter.
Yeah. Do you guys feel like, so Adam, I know, well, frankly, all of you, especially busy individuals, right? We have a lot going on. I say Adam because right now you probably have more going on in your life than you maybe ever have. Do you find that helps or hurts training? Because I think for me, when I'm on one and my momentum is flaring and I'm going crazy, if training is the only thing on my mind, it works great. When I'm down and my momentum sucks, if training is the only thing on my mind in my life, it's the worst thing ever. Not just for my mental health, but like for training itself, right? So how does that situate for you guys? Do you prefer being busy or making yourselves busy, or do you prefer to just be hyper fixated on training at all times?
No, I definitely see your point there. I do think being busy and having things to think about outside of training can be massively productive, so we're not obsessing over it all the time. The one caveat to my situation right now is the amount of work I have actually does impact how much I'm sleeping and what my eating is like. So that has negative repercussions on my training. But if those variables are in check and I'm busy to a manageable extent, it can be massively productive. I just think about my workouts like an hour before they start, maybe 30 minutes after, and then I don't think about it the rest of the day. And it's actually really nice. So I 100% agree in that situation. But once it starts to have an impact on, I'm only sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a night, then I'm like, oh shit, beating me up a little bit.
Yeah, I think what you said earlier and what Adam just said, I switched my brain into training on my 20-minute drive to the gym, and on my 20-minute drive home, I shut away from it. That's every time. I've done that for the last 3 years. Is when I'm on the way, I sometimes won't even look at my program until I'm in the parking lot of the gym, where I'm like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do today. This is what I did last week with this. And sometimes, like, let's say if I'm in a peaking block, right? I'm like 6 weeks out from a competition. Like, okay, this is week 1 of this block. In 3 weeks, I need to hit this or work backwards quickly. Okay, I walk into the gym, I hit that number, I go home. That's how I train. And then on the way home, I try very hard to disorientate myself from the gym, and I do it on purpose. I don't want to bring anger of training feeling like shit, excitement of even training feeling good. I don't want to bring that home to people who are at home. I think it's unfair to them. I don't want to make them feel like it's their fault, because this is a very selfish sport. I chose it for myself. So that 4-hour time span that I have in the gym, that's for me to feel the feelings. And when I'm home, they don't give a fuck. It's like as simple as having a dog. Like, the dog doesn't care how you feel. It's still going to jump at you and piss on the floor every time you walk in the house. You could have the worst day possible outside, but when you walk in the house, they're still excited. So it's your job to be somewhat excited to see them, because they're going to dance every time they see you. They still have to get fed. So you can't be this asshole of a person, right? You just got to switch off. That's life. In life, you got to switch the fuck off when you're home. If you have kids, they don't give a shit if your training went bad, if your training was good. So if you're in a peaking block and your training is going shit, and you come home and your kids are like, why isn't dad playing with me? They don't give a fuck.
Starving my child because I overshot.
Well, I think what Nick is getting at with his podcast is actually really fucking important, in my opinion, because I think in powerlifting we get, and I'm guilty of this too. I've done this a lot, where we get so excited and we're so married to numbers and the glory, we almost like forget about the process. We forget about how important every single day is, how important it is to just enjoy every set, feel every set, and like even like the meditation aspect of like the focus that goes into doing a hard squat session. There's something fucking amazing about that. And we're always thinking about next. And when it gets to that point, we're not even fucking happy. So that's why I think it's so important to feel every single moment in training. And that 4 hours of a time when you're training, it's your time to enjoy and give it your all, but don't fucking bring it home. Just enjoy the process in that moment, and whatever happens at the end, it happens. Don't fucking think about it. And then just move on and keep doing it. Keep doing it forever. That's powerlifting.
How do you do that? Like, we agree that's a good thing, but like, how do you go about doing it, like, yourself?
I just do it. I don't know. Like, I got people who depend on me. I got to fucking pay bills. I still got to go to work. I got to coach. I can't sit here and rope. I can't give a fuck. I have to. That's what I said. Training and powerlifting is a selfish part for me. I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah.
Right? I do it because I want the glory of winning or hitting PRs. That's for me. No one gives a fuck about that.
You don't do it so that your ancestors are smiling down upon you. I'm the strongest in my bloodline.
At some point, maybe I have thought about that in my brain.
I've never thought about
that. But I'm just saying, it's like, you still got to do your shit at home. So no one gives a fuck if you're doing all that, if you're a shitty person. That's how I look at it. I look at it as like, my family doesn't care if I'm winning. They just care about if I'm a good person, if I'm providing. Right? That's all they give a fuck about. So that's all I need to focus on. And they're going to love me no matter. I think one of the most important things is that you have to realize and that your family and your partner, if you're fortunate enough, will love you, win or lose. Right? And once you settle with that, you're like, okay, if I try hard, it's only for myself. It's not for them to love me or not.
Danny, do you think Mally is insane? What are your thoughts?
Honestly, I can't really relate too much. His compartmentalizing and stuff. I guess in my case, gym, it's my work. It's almost like my third space. My partner is a bodybuilder, and so all around me in my life, it's all just gym. And when I do get into the couple hour windows of training, then yeah, I get into a mode of pure selfishness, and I do try often to remind myself that, like, it's a pretty special thing that you can dedicate yourself to this elective activity and apply yourself and try hard at something that is as simple as picking up a bar. If you like really zoom out, it is very, very selfish, and it won't happen if so many things line up and fall into place, like your people around you supporting you, you having the financial means to do this, all that stuff. So it just makes you appreciate the sport even more.
Yeah, I can very heavily relate to that, where that doesn't feel like there's a lot of disconnect. I think that, it's something as a kid growing up in powerlifting I always wish for is I wish I could just powerlift. Right? I wish that I could make a living out of it. I want to just do everything powerlifting. And now through Clean Strength Fitness and also the enterprises that we've worked on, that is my reality. And to some degree, the monkey's paw has not completely curled, but curled a little bit, where I'm like, I can't disconnect from powerlifting now.
Is that a thing? I've never heard someone. That's not a thing. You just made that up.
What?
You just made that up.
Made what up?
Monkey.
What did you just
monkey paw
You've never
curling?
heard the monkey's paw curl?
Me and Adam.
Fucking Simpsons episode.
I don't go. What the fuck?
You are making things up. I'm
You've
going to
never
Google
heard
this.
the monkey's paw curl. You watched Obsession. Obsession is about the monkey's paw curling.
I don't know what you're
We're
talking
gonna
about.
take a
I
slight
didn't even watch
intermission
that
while
movie.
Adam
I don't know.
Adam Googles the monkey's paw curls.
Is this from the movie Obsession? I don't watch horror.
No, it's an old adage from some shit,
No.
but it was it was a Simpsons episode, I think famously, but I forget exactly where it comes from.
Dude, why do I? Why does RuneScape come up when I type this in? Nick?
Anyway,
What's the
It doesn't
correlation?
exist, but
Well,
it's
anyways,
such an obscure reference.
okay.
Well,
Oh, did Mally disappear?
Well, anyways,
I wanna
while
s-
Adam figures out that the monkey's paw curls,
I do want to challenge something a little bit. I do. This has been weighing on me for a long time, and I do want to put this out there. I feel like with social media, there's these big shifts in like, if one high level person's saying it, everyone has to adopt it. And I feel like there's been a lot of talk recently about, this is a little bit of a challenge on Mally's idea of like working out selfish, don't bring it home with you. If it upsets you and, you're grumpy at home, you're an asshole, piece of shit, whatever. I will say this. I think one of the main reasons I've made progress in any aspect of my life is because I really do care deeply about the things I'm pursuing. Like very, very deeply. I care deeply about my lifting. I care very deeply about arena and clean grip. And I want to say is if something's going really poorly, you're allowed to be upset, right? Like we don't need to put on this false facade of being happy all the time when we get home. Like I feel like that's what the narrative's trying to say. Like working out outside the gym doesn't matter. If you are upset by it or care about it outside the gym, you're a piece of shit. I don't agree. I've seen so many posts about this. And I think it's totally fine to be upset about the things you care about. It shows that you're passionate, even if that's for an extended period of time. Of course, it doesn't mean treat people badly, but I truly, down to my core, I don't think there's anything wrong about if you're having a bad season of life, the things you care about deeply aren't going well. That's okay. As long as you're actively trying to figure it out, solve it. But yeah, I just don't like, there's so much talk about, like someone made a post about Mally Mally made a post saying like how much he cared about lifting and he wanted to be a great lifter. And, the argument against him was a little bit like, you just end up being like a little bit of an asshole if you think this way. I don't think so. I think you can care deeply and want to be great. And it's okay if you're a little bit upset and you take a little bit of that home with you, as long as you're treating your family and partners fine. Like as long as those things are covered. I just don't understand that. I've always been someone who takes things home with me to some standpoint. And I think that's the reason I've been able to keep on progressing in my life. And if I just wrote everything off, like business wise or lifting wise, and like, oh, I don't care about it, even though it's going poorly. Well, I probably wouldn't have been as motivated to get back on track as I have been for the 11 years that I've been chasing my goals. So if you are a lifter and training's not going good and you're upset by it, I don't think you're a piece of shit. Like, I want to put that out there. I think people are trying to fake it too much now. Like, it's totally fine to be upset by your passions not going well. And I just needed to voice that because it's been weighing on me for a long time.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that I cry after fucking sessions at home to my girl. I'll fucking come home and cry because it's felt like, or if I'm hurt, like I'm so deep in pain, I couldn't squat the bar in Worlds Prep. And I came home crying to my girlfriend and I called her on the way. I'm like, I want to pull out of Worlds. I'm done. Like, I don't want to do this shit anymore. Right? Like, because I care so deeply. And after losing at Mats, I cried at home with her for like hours. And like, I'm not saying don't be upset, because you should be upset because it's something you should try. If you're trying hard at it and putting in that much effort, you are going to it's going to affect you, right? It's going to affect you at some point. What I'm saying is during the moments of like being away from a competition or like not in a competition, you're allowed to just have a sectioned amount of time for training, and the rest of it can be life. Right? Like, you're allowed the other life still goes on. Life doesn't give a fuck if your training is going good or not. So the ultimate goal should be to enjoy training, right? And sometimes it's harder when it's bad. If it's not going good, you're not going to enjoy it. But if you kind of just like obsess over numbers. And if Nick's case right now, like if he was calculating like what does he need to do next March to win again, and if he's doing that right now 9 months away, he's mentally fucked, right? He's gonna get exhausted. Because what if he snaps again in 6 months?
Well, don't put that out there. What the fuck is wrong with
I had to touch wood. I touched wood. But like, you know, like if something bad happens again, now he's gonna feel like these 6 months were wasted, right? But if he catches his momentum again slowly at his own pace, when he does it, and which he is going to do, I think this is going to be actually the breaking point for Nick. I believe it, from just the way he's acting and I see him. I think it's going to feel that much better.
Well, I've also had like a bit of a paradigm shift with my mindset, and it's sort of what I was getting at. And I'm going to piggyback deeply off of both of you, all of you, in that, you know, like Adam said, it's extremely important to be passionate about anything you do. And that's sort of what I was getting at before Adam freaked out about the monkey's paw, which is the dumbest shit ever. But, you know, it is that idea that like, yeah, I wanted my life to be situated around powerlifting because it was the first thing, and to some degree, one of the only things that I'm truly, truly passionate about with every fiber of my being. But then, yes, in times of despair, if I have no more outlet for my passions, for my emotions, and my life is all powerlifting, those lows are so low. And even the highs, they're too high, right? I think that I have always looked to art for inspiration, right? We have Zampano in House of Leaves. We realistically also have Vincent van Gogh, the famous mad artist, right? Where it's like you get so deeply involved in your work and so passionate about it that we, from the outside looking in, we romanticize it. It's very easy to do that. But I mean, Vincent was not a happy man. He had a lot of failures to a lot of degrees. And he succeeded, sure, to some degree, however you define that success. But a lot of this sort of like too deeply involving yourself in your art can backfire, right? You cut off your ear, you go mad or whatever. And I think that I'm not at risk of going insane, but when I lack those outlets, then it's all powerlifting and it's too much, right? Because realistically, like any athlete, we need to rest. We need to recover. And when all of your life is situated into pouring resources into powerlifting, physically outside of the gym, you're maybe resting, but mentally you're not. And your nervous system never gets to settle. And I don't think that's a good thing, right? So as much as I do believe you absolutely should be passionate, because I think another thing here is that I think in a very good way that I'm very proud of in a lot of ways, we're seeing less people treat powerlifting as a hobby and more as a career sport, as something to actually want to excel at, propel at, become the best at. But in doing that, you do lose powerlifting as a hobby. So then if your life lacks hobbies and you lack outlets, where does that energy go? Where do you pour emotion into, whatever, what have you? And I do think that we've seen some healthier examples of that start to pop out. I'm thinking currently of like, you know, I know Bryce Krawczyk just has checked out of training as of late to some degree, plays a lot of Magic the Gathering, has been going on like a weight loss journey, and his training looks better than it ever has, the little that he does post. I know for me, I've tried to get some new hobbies. I used to always fall back into, I used to always fall back into video games. Recently, as Adam may know, I've been getting a little bit more into menswear and fashion, just as something to pour my mind into, right? And even this tiny little thing has, I think, really helped me. There's even been a little bit, I made a video that I never posted because I thought my fit sucked, where I was going to talk about how developing technique within the sport of powerlifting is a lot like developing your own sense of style, where you can't just copy someone else's and you can't immediately do it. Good sense of style needs to be curated over a sense of time, and you can develop, or you can take inspiration from others, but ultimately you have to develop your own. And if that isn't what technique is in powerlifting, I don't know what is. You take inspiration from other people, you put in the hours to do it, and eventually you have a technique that is entirely your own and works for you. So even in looking at these other hobbies, you can still take inspiration from them and apply them to powerlifting. You can find lessons for your sport and for your hobby and for your career, for your art, by disconnecting to it to some degree. And if you never looked outside that box and you're stuck within it, then I feel like it just gets overwhelmed and it acts like a prison. I think that's ultimately what I'm getting at, is that if we overthink powerlifting too much and we get stuck in it, it does just act like a box, like a prison. And you can go mad in there, even if things are going well. Because as soon as they start to go bad, you go mad. And if they go too well, then it's almost a carrion. I have done this many, many times where powerlifting is just, I'm balling out, I'm going crazy, I'm pulling 800 pounds for the first time as the first 83 junior to do it, and I fly too close to the sun and I hurt my back. You know? Like, and during that course of time, all I was thinking about 24/7, I was dreaming about powerlifting. And I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think in terms of long-term development, it's a good thing. Not to lose sight of it, like Adam said, you need to be passionate. If you don't have the passion for it, one, you're never going to have this issue to begin with, right? But two, I just, you don't want to lose that passion either. We're not trying to evacuate that from you and just say, never think about powerlifting. Don't care about it. Care about it. Absolutely. You have to. Just don't let it be all-encompassing and overwhelming, right? Don't put yourself in the box of it. Don't make it your only hat.
Do you think this is possible for people if they don't fly too close to the sun at some point in their career, though? Like, I feel like this is a stage that you develop after you do that, right? Like
you're saying that people have to get burned?
They have to. I think it's a part of it. Like, I think there's nothing wrong with a young lifter going crazy, balling out, deadlifting 800 pounds, getting hurt. And then, okay, how do I move forward from here? How can I do this in a meaningful, manageable way going forward? But Nick, you pulled 800 pounds. You're the first junior in the world to do it. Would you have gotten
actually,
there?
I think Eno was. I think Eno was actually.
But regardless, case in point, like I think this is a necessary part of a young lifter's career. Like, I don't think this is something to shun on. Like, it's part of it. You became one of the best lifters in the world as a junior lifter for a period of time because you were relentlessly chasing this goal. And of course, you are going to, like, you're going to burn out. You flew too close to the sun. You got hurt. But now you adapt. And I think in order to figure out healthy ways to manage your life in and outside of the gym, you need to make these mistakes. I know it's been super important for me. And it will help you grow as a powerlifter and just as a person in general. But I think this is a very hard skill to develop without making the mistake first.
I agree, but isn't it our role as a coach to like see someone get really close to the edge and then go, don't do that? I've been there. Like, we learn the lessons. We can both agree, you know, whether it was a good thing or not that I did fly too close to the sun, right? Shouldn't we go, look, I've made this mistake. I don't want my lifters to do that. I want them to get really, really close to it because, yeah, it's fantastic. So the argument is, do we need to get burned to learn, or can we reach just that point and then have the maturity or the wisdom, listening to our elders or people that have been burned, to go, okay, let's pull back. Let's be better. Let's make more progress than necessarily getting burned. Or is it just, you know, you have to get burned to learn that lesson? Because I think to some degree I do agree with even that. Like, you're never going to tell a cocky, headstrong kid that's being better than anyone else ever has, slow down. They're going to tell you to fuck off, and then they're going to hurt themselves, and then they're going to go, oh, you were right. So maybe you are right.
But there's so many times.
I think this is just.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I think this is life. I think this is how people are. And sure, our job as coaches is to provide guidance, give input, but a lot of this isn't right. We can give physical restrictions. We can manage that, of course. Like, we can manage pacing and load, absolutely. But most of this talk is actually mental. And I think the best way to learn is send it, buddy. Let's see what happens. Godspeed. And then, hey, if shit happens, shit happens. we adapt, we work on the things that need to be worked on, and we move forward. But to truly learn a lesson, I do think sometimes you need to get burned.
Yeah. At some points, you might actually, there's so many cases of juniors not even after they hit that, because usually it happens because they're end of junior, they didn't hit their goals. Now their first 1 or 2 years of open, and now they're starting to go crazy, or they're trying to push to open limits. This is when this usually happens, and then they break, or life happens, and then they quit. This is usually when you start testing people mentally, physically, everything, right? And
are we testing them or not giving them the tools?
no, I think
Listen,
I was about to say, I think what Adam is saying is important. Like, you want to try to let them get close to the sun, but I think we are in a unique position as coaches where we can tell them early on when we start seeing that. And if they listen, they listen. If they don't, we're not their fathers or moms.
Yeah, I mean, we can take the very Spartan approach of just like feeding the kids to the wolves, and if they survive, they come back.
No, I think as coaches, we should be telling them, like, hey, I see where you're going. There could be tools in programming that you can use to, control your wolf a little bit from like going crazy. You can start doing these things, but ultimately it's up to them to listen.
Oh, of course.
Right. So I think as a coach, what I'll do if I start seeing this is I'll start communicating, talking to them, being like, yo, I've been here. I've seen this over and over again. We got to kind of pull back. We got to do these smarter approaches. Or I'll program stuff and I'll be like, this is what I'm programming. This is why I'm programming it. And sometimes I actually just did this 2 weeks ago to an athlete who's he's a menace, but he needs to be controlled. I started programming calculated back downs versus just giving him numbers or RPEs to control him. And I told him in a meeting that, hey, this is what we're doing. This is why. And it was going to go either way. They were either going to go, fuck you, I'm dropping you, or, okay, let's try it. And it went, okay, let's try it. Right. So I think it's an interesting thing when it comes to a lifter's progress. If you sometimes have to just try it. And if they don't listen to you, okay, I tried. I've been here. I've seen it.
Yeah, my big red flag with my lifters is when I know they're on a rest day and then they just message me about the numbers that they want to hit. This happens more often than you'd think. They're like, I want to hit this at the end of the week or at the end of the block. And I know they're supposed to be resting. And then usually the advice I tell them is just stop thinking about training, go play a video game, go like meet up with some friends, go have some drinks, go watch a movie, go do something else. That's my big message of this is just, I think if your life 100% revolves around powerlifting without any sort of cease, I don't think that's good. To just not wax poetic about it, I don't think that's productive. I don't think it's good for powerlifting. I think it becomes counterproductive. In my experience.
Nick is not saying you should say fuck training and drink every day, though.
No, on your rest days, maybe have a drink. Maybe. Imbibe a little bit. Relax here and there.
Everything in moderation.
On the days that you're on, when you're in the gym, look, I'm going to be one of the main proponents of like when you're in the gym or on like a day of training, take that period of time either like directly before and during that training session where you're a power lifter through and through. Don't think about anything else. Lock in, become an animal, get aggressive. I don't give a shit. I wish I saw more West Side culture nowadays. Go in there with the training partner, push them around, punch somebody, get a nosebleed. I don't give a fuck. Go crazy. Afterwards, log out. Stop. Relax. Just don't think about training anymore after.
Here's my final message on this conversation. I think this is one of those situations. It's like a parenting situation when you have a kid, right? Like if they're falling,
we all have those.
If they're falling, do you catch them so they avoid hitting their head? Like I don't mean this in like a horrible sense, or do you let them fall? They get a little bit hurt, They become more aware about their body, their surroundings, and they learn from that. So my message here is, I don't think all the focus should be on avoidance, especially for a young lifter. I think you should pursue your passions relentlessly. I think it's okay to let it consume you as long as it's not ruining the rest of your life. Push yourself as much as you can. How did that work out for you? Did you burn out? Did you get hurt? And then try a new strategy. Keep on trying things till you find something that's sustainable and fits for you. But I am a believer that, especially early on, if you're young, I don't think there's anything wrong with letting this sport consume you, testing you, making you upset, pissing you off. You get a small injury. The goal should be adapting from what we just learned and not from avoidance. I think avoidance is going to hold you back in your career, especially early on. And you are not going to grow as much as you could grow from learning hard lessons. I'm not trying to say send it all the time, be an idiot, ruin your powerlifting career early on. That's not what I'm trying to say. I don't want this taken to the extreme, but you have to find out what your limitations are on both ends of the spectrum. And you, like Nick said, try all these things and then craft your own solution out of it. What works for you? What's sustainable? But yeah, I think that's the final message. There's just so much talk right now on avoidance and sustainability. And how do you grow as a person? How do you grow as a lifter? You have to make mistakes. And I don't want to have people avoiding these mistakes that are going to curate them into the best person they can be. So again, don't take what I'm saying to the extreme, but I really do believe you should be testing your limits and then learn from them. And that's ultimately all I want to say.
Yeah.
Danny, you look like you want to say something. Do you want to say something?
I just fully agree with what he's saying. That's all. Maybe because I'm biased, but I think what he's trying to say is like to find the sustainable zone, the happy medium, the quote unquote balance that we're looking for. You have to find where the extreme is, because if you don't know where that other end is, then you don't know where the middle is. And that's how I take it. And that's how I explain trying to find what's like sustainable, healthy eating as well. If you don't know how to get on a meal plan and follow that strictly, then you don't know how to find what sustainable eating actually is. And it's that analogy of just finding the other end and then landing on somewhere in the middle. I think it's what he's trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely, Danny. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like League of Legends. You got a limit test, just run it down mid until you know what those limits are. But I also want to end this a bit with saying that this is definitely like an old head conversation. If you're a young lifter, you're probably in your honeymoon stage. Just let the sport fucking consume you, right? Frankly, if you're dealing with burnout in your first year, it's just probably not the sport for you. Like, I don't think that anyone's burning out in their first year it's worth it to continue. Just to be frank, I just think that, do something else with your life. Enjoy it. This is definitely more so once you're in the 4, 5, 6, 7+ years where you start to think like, I need a bit more balance to my life, maybe, right? I'd say for those first couple of years, absolutely, just fucking let it consume you, limit test, find the extremes, and then go back from there, right? So
I will say, I mean, I don't know. Now I'm thinking more about Adam's perspective. I think being obsessed is good. I think it's good for people to be obsessed with shit. Even in the long term, like 10-year, 15-year game, like it's okay to be obsessed as long as you can still do the other shit and balance yourself.
But then is that obsession or is that passion with balance?
No, I think there is still obsession. Prime example in my brain is like Durance. He's obsessed.
Yeah, but he has good balance. It's not like Durance had a bad Worlds, and he's just figuring it out. He's not like going crazy. He hasn't like freaked out.
Yeah,
like,
that's experience. He knows like when to when he should be pushing, when he shouldn't be pushing. These phases of just, he's one of those prime examples of, he just loves training and figuring shit out. That's how he's obsessed with it. So I think what Adam is saying, what Nick is saying is actually really cool to put together, is if you start your career off being really obsessed, fucking it up, figuring it out, then when you're kind of at like that 10, so maybe you have hit the sun, you've achieved some shit in the sport, and now you're like, how do I continue? Now you're obsessed for the period of time of like training, or maybe for a couple of weeks before a big competition, you're really obsessed, but you know how to switch in and out of that. I think that's what ultimately, for me at least, for personal powerlifting and life goals, I would say that's what I'm chasing. That's what I want to be, is I can be in that obsession when I need to, but when I don't need to be there, I can have it coasting in my brain. I'm not just, I don't need to kind of like be obsessed 100% of the time. I know.
But I think the key there then is being able to click it off. Right? Because if you can't do that, then it is that all-consuming obsession that I'm sort of trying to warn against. Yeah. Where it is just, you're going to get fucking tired.
You asked me, I know we're dragging this a bit, but you asked me an interesting question a bit ago about how do I switch it on in training. And this is something my psychiatrist told me to do, because I've been actually talking about this to my doctor, of how do I switch it on in training and how do I switch it off at home. It is a lot. She's got me to do, I'm not saying this is something everyone should do, but I just sit there and meditate and visualize nationals or my next competition for about 5 minutes every session. And then my brain just goes into training and I don't have to think about anything else. I just stop. I have no worries about numbers. I'm just thinking about how every set feels. I'm just there. And that's something I've just started to do about 3 months ago, and it feels fucking amazing.
Yeah, I turn on death grips and I just try to get as sweaty as I can in 10 minutes, and then I carry that. I continue it. Well, I think we've all said our piece. I know Adam has. Danny agreed with what Adam said, so I imagine that's her piece. Mally has said his piece. And I don't want to think about powerlifting anymore. I'm done for tonight. It's approaching 9 p.m. and tomorrow's my rest day, so I'm not going to think about powerlifting. I'm going to answer my clients first, actually, as soon as we log off of this. I'm going to do my client feedback, and then I'm going to tune out of powerlifting for 24 hours. It's going to be fantastic. And then I'll go back to trading. And I suggest that if you are experiencing any level of not even necessarily burnout, if you just find yourself thinking about powerlifting 24/7, day in, day out, 365, be wary of it. I'm not going to say don't do it, just be wary of it. I think that there can be some negative repercussions to that. Anyways, unless anyone else, okay, Adam.
I'll sign it off. Sign it off. The Monkey's Paw is a famous 1902 horror story by W.W. Jacobs. It centers on a mummified paw that grants 3 wishes. The catch is the fate twists the wishes into happening through catastrophic and devastating events. It's a real thing. Nick was not spewing some bullshit. I got you, Nick. I got you.
Yeah, it's real. I don't know, like it's a common knowledge thing too, to some degree.
I also want to bring up one other quote from Whiplash. I'd rather die drunk, broke at 34, and have people at a dinner table talk about me than live to be rich and sober at 90 and no one remember who I was. Nick brought up something and made me think exactly of that with the Vincent Van Gogh quote. Anyways, some things to think about.
And that's the CSF podcast.